The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation. We also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
A head NBA coach, X-ray poker tables, and the mob. We're talking about the federal gambling scandal, and a former mob member joins us live on the show. Plus, the final movements of singer David's Tesla, a private investigator revealing some key details in the death investigation of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Also this hour, we're previewing the brand new season of Interview with a Killer. And David Scott joins me live here in the studio to talk about the next murderer that he's going to be talking to. And a beauty queen found dead behind an abandoned school. We're taking a closer look at the murder of Kata Scott and the suspect's alleged history of domestic violence. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant, and we got a great show planned for you, so let's get started without any further ado. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. I believe her. I believe the accuser in the Irish firefighter rape trial. She testified in front of a bunch of strangers about the most traumatic experience of her life. That takes a tremendous amount of courage. Her testimony is corroborated by the other pieces of evidence. It lines up with all the hotel video records and room key access. She told them about the defendant's friend Liam, who she willingly went into the room with to have consensual sex. Hotel video and other records show the defendant entering the room that he was sharing with Liam 2 hours after the accuser went in and 20 minutes before she leaves. Those records show no other man going into the room besides defendant Terrence Crosby. The accuser reported the incident to police and had a rape kit done. 2 male DNA profiles were found, and it supports her testimony. The fact that no identification could be made from either one isn't fatal to this case. All of the other evidence is more than enough to prove that a rape occurred. I think this firefighter's pants are on fire. He slipped up that he knew details about a woman being pinned down on the bed and raped when all police said to him was that an assault had occurred. He then lied to police about being in the room alone that morning and masturbating on his bed. And then he changed his flight to rush back to Ireland to not stay for the parade that he came to America for in the first place. That arguably shows his consciousness of guilt. Defendant Terrence Crosby is cloaked, yes, in the presumption of innocence. And yes, he's got his freedom on the line, so he's got some incentive to win this trial. But what's the accuser's incentive? She's not in this for money. She hasn't sued him. She's in criminal court, a place where nobody wants to be. What she gets from testifying in front of that jury is more trauma. And if I were on that jury, I would not be wrestling with this case. My decision would be clear. I believe her. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
I woke up to somebody on top of me, inside of me, telling me, you like this, he couldn't give this to you, I'll give it to you, he's a loser.
In Massachusetts, the case I was just talking about, we're on verdict watch in the Irish firefighter rape trial for defendant Terrence Crosby. Jury deliberations resume at 9 a.m. In New Hampshire, we've got the state's case resuming in the murder trial of Dustin Duren. He's accused of shooting and killing the mother of his children. Testimony resumes at 9 a.m. as well. And in Florida, we've got the murder trial for defendant Alicia Andrews. She's accused in the ambush shooting of rising rapper Julio Folio. That's going to begin at 9 a.m. Eastern. Right now, to our top story, federal authorities have made over 30 arrests in what they're calling a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise, which involves a current NBA head coach's alleged gambling connection to the mafia.
As you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today, former current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
So 2 indictments were unsealed on Thursday, and this morning we're focusing on the one charging Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups with allegedly participating in a conspiracy to fix high-stakes card games backed by the mafia that allegedly cheated unsuspecting gamblers out of at least $7 million. The U.S. Department of Justice released photos showing the technology that was used to rig these poker games, which included card reading contacts, X-ray poker tables, and rigged shuffling machines, all to allegedly benefit the mafia. Now, just days into a new season, the NBA released this statement on the allegations, announcing that Billups will be placed on leave after his arrest, while also stating that they will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities, saying we take these allegations with the utmost seriousness and the integrity of our game remains our top priority. Now, let's talk about this with someone with expert knowledge in this topic. He's a former Gambino crime family associate, Lou Ferrante. Lou, good morning to you. Thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning, Julie.
So let's just start with your reaction to this news, because a lot of America was stunned at what came out yesterday. Were you?
Not at all. It's not surprising. The mob, since my time, I went away in the 1990s and I came home in the early 2000s. And since then, the mob has sort of contracted. They've lost a lot of the unions that they controlled. They've lost a lot of the construction industry. They used to pour all the concrete. Not a yard of concrete was poured in Manhattan on any job more than $2 million, which is most jobs, without the mob's backing. They lost the garment industry for the most part. A lot of the trucking was controlled by them. So what do they have left? They've always had loan sharking, loaning people money, and gambling, keeping book. So those are the 2 mainstays the mob has had for over the last 100 years. And it's not surprising that they've gone back to that. Also, too, the mob has always had big card games. There was a Lucchese capo named Bruno Fasciola who was whacked, I think back either in the late 80s or early 90s. He was killed, found in a car, dead, with a parakeet in his mouth. But he held big high-stakes card games in his social club in Brooklyn. And when Little Al Diaco, a Lucchese acting boss at the time, went sour, he said that the head of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, used to play there. When a spokesperson for Howard Schultz was asked, that spokesperson didn't deny or confirm the allegation. So I'm not saying Howard Schultz did or didn't play there. I'm just saying that Little Al Diaco accused him of playing there and said he used to sit next to him during card games. It was also in Little Al Diaco's memoir. I've written a history of the American Mafia called the Borgata Trilogy, and I go heavily into it in the 3rd volume. So yes, the mob has always been holding high-stakes card games. They've also infiltrated basketball in the past. Jimmy Burke, who the movie Goodfellas, with the star actor Robert De Niro playing Jimmy Conway, that was based on the life of Jimmy Burke, the man who hit the Lufthansa heist. out of JFK Airport. Jimmy Burke, they couldn't get him on the heist, the FBI. What did they get him on? They got him on fixing college basketball games, and they gave him 20 years for that. So that was sort of the way they ended up taking him down with fixing college basketball games. So this has been something the mob has always been doing, and the reason why they're shifting this way now is because they know that murder indictments lead to life sentences. So they've scaled back on the violence, they've scaled back on the murders, and they're focusing more on things like loan sharking and gambling, where it's a slap on the wrist. For them, 5 years, 10 years, that's nothing compared to 30, 40 years or a life sentence. So they'd much rather be in this racket than they would in any of the others right now.
Lou, this is fascinating hearing you talk. I want to hear more. First, I've got a clip I want to play for you now from FBI Director Kash Patel at that presser yesterday talking about just how much money was stolen.
And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
Okay, so let's look at some more now together, Lou. So these are the allegations that have been levied against Chauncey Billups and the allegations that he's got ties to the mafia. They're saying that he was one of the NBA figures who was enlisted here to sit at the table for these poker games to make them feel a little more legitimate, perhaps maybe make people feel a little more comfortable, saying that these defendants would use a shuffling machine to count the cards, try to predict who had the best hand. The information was then transmitted to somebody sitting at the table who would use signals to communicate it with other people in on this scheme. The FBI says they also say they used decoy cell phones and marked cars that could only be seen with special glasses. This stuff sounds just genius, just criminally genius. And I think what's troubling and stunning to a lot of people, myself included, you know, when you think of NBA players, these are rich people who, why would they need to steal any money if they did? Would you help us understand that, Lou?
Sure. Yeah, what happens is, so the mob, it's predatory. I was part of it. One day, long ago, you're always looking, you're a predator. You're out there constantly looking for the next racket, the next scam, the next scheme. And anybody who falls into our world becomes prey. So you might have somebody who owns, he's a CEO. Maybe he owns a company or a corporation, or maybe he's an athlete. Once he falls into our world, you know, our talents come out. We want to dig into him, and we want to, you know, use them any way we can to make money. So how do people fall into our world? Usually through vices. I'm not speaking specifically with regard to him, but in general, people might have a drug habit. They might have a gambling habit. They might have a spendthrift wife they can't keep up with. They may be spenders. They spend over their head. They may be back in taxes. People have problems. That's human nature. I mean, you know, we're all human. It's human frailties that we all have to contend with every day. And these people have to contend with them as well. And once they make that sort of, they cross that line and come into our world, our chief goal is to use this person to the fullest extent, any which way we can. And this goes way back into the days of Frank Sinatra fronting for the mob when they wanted to open up casinos in Havana, Cuba. You know, they had Frank Sinatra, they had booked him in certain places on his way up, so they were able to use him as sort of a front man. Murder Incorporated, Albert Anastasia at one point approached Joe DiMaggio and wanted Joe DiMaggio to be the face of a resort casino. And Joe DiMaggio got spooked and he ran. He said, you know, I don't want anything to do with these guys. And he ended up being Mr. Coffee, the face of Mr. Coffee, which was a legitimate enterprise. Right. But the mob is always trying to get somebody, you know, hook up with somebody, and it gives them credibility. As far as the technology is concerned, that's not surprising either. Don't imagine that somebody, you know, Frankie Nine Fingers or Joey Nose is doing this stuff. They're going to have geeky guys. Yeah, I mean, you know, I would call a guy.
They're not going to look like a wise guy, you're saying. Yeah. They're not going to look like wise guys. Yeah. No, I get it. Lou Ferrante, you are a fascinating guy. I can't wait to read your book. This story isn't going away. Would love to have you back another time soon to tell us more. Thank you kindly for this morning.
Thank you,
Take
Julie.
care.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
It's a video of the Tesla, being moved on the July 29th, about midday. And it's the same day that they leave, a group of them leave on a tour bus to begin the tour, the first day of the tour on the tour bus going to San Francisco.
A private investigator speaking out about the final movements of singer David's Tesla. Plus, a very special guest joining me this morning, the host of Interview with a Killer, David Scott, in the studio to help preview the brand new season that kicks off this weekend.
The Court TV podcast will return.
I was such an internet kid. The internet is really what I claim as my home. Like, if you ask me where I'm from, I say the internet. Because I was just online every day, doing my schoolwork, making songs, making a video, being a YouTuber, content creator, posting TikToks, posting on Instagram. Like, that's really my neighborhood was Instagram, and the society was the internet. You know what I'm saying?
We may be one step closer to finding out what really happened to teenager Celeste Rivas Hernandez as her body was found in singer David's abandoned Tesla back in September. Well, now a private investigator claims to know who was driving that Tesla before her body was found inside of it. Steve Fisher was hired by the owner of the Hollywood Hills home where David had been renting, and he spoke to Court TV last night.
I know who was driving it on that last little, move that it made to that parking spot there. But that's something that I'm not going to disclose yet. I think that would be, stepping on LAPD's toes, which we don't want to do. We just want to make sure that, some of these things are known and that, that there's justice in this case.
Fisher says in May, the Tesla was parked in a few spots around the neighborhood, and then finally on July 29th, it was left in its final resting place on Bluebird Avenue, right down the road from David's home. The private investigator says that it happens to be right before or the same day that people were seen leaving on a tour bus for David's tour. Now, Fisher says he can't disclose who was driving that Tesla, as you heard him in the clip there, but has us wondering who did. And could that provide us with more information as to what really happened to Celeste Rivas Hernandez and whether there was any connection to David himself? Let's bring in our fantastic guest in the studio with me, celebrity attorney and law professor Randy Kessler, and joining us remotely, Dr. Kenny Kinsey of Dr. Kenny Kinsey and Associates. You know him and love him from the Murdaugh trial, star expert witness there. And we want to start by tapping into your expertise, Dr. Kinsey, with this crime scene and who might have been driving last. How important might that be to the overall puzzle?
Good morning, Ms. Julie. It's very important. When you start talking about this scene, the horrendous scene that law enforcement and the medical first responders are going to have to deal with, you start looking at those timelines, and that's such important information, but you've got to separate the two. So you're dealing with two different scenes. You're dealing with the remains of the victim, and you're also dealing with the vehicle. And ultimately, you're in search of a third scene if the victim was not killed in the vehicle. So, tying this vehicle to a driver helps you work that timeline backwards, and it's going to be to the utmost importance to the law enforcement investigators.
Definitely. Dr. Kinsey, I've got some dates for you to look at with respect to David's Tesla and the timeline. So on August 27th, the position of the tires were marked. On September 3rd, a citation was issued for a parking ordinance. On the 5th, the Tesla was impounded. On the 8th was when they discovered Celeste Rivas Hernandez's decomposing body in the back of the trunk at the impound lot. And then on the 19th of September, the home where David was renting in the Hollywood Hills was searched by authorities. How key are these dates, Dr. Kinsey, or is it necessary to go back further when Celeste was alive to get the clues?
Well, certainly, Ms. Julie, you're going to want to go back depending on what the overlaps might be, but that's where a proficient medical examiner is going to come in if they can try to figure out a time of demise for this young lady. but you're certainly going to take your timeline back and further back than just when this entertainer went on tour, because it may be one of those situations where the entertainer himself may not be involved. It may be a member of his entourage. And we know that these big productions sometimes take months for their departure. So you're going to take it back as far as you can take it back. Those dates that you mentioned are going to be very, very important if this young lady wasn't killed at a later date and then deposited in this vehicle. Hopefully your investigators and your medical professionals are going to be able to determine an approximate time of this lady's demise, and you can work it back. But you take everything you can get, especially with the timeline, because things overlap and they interlock.
This is really, really helpful, Dr. Kinsey. The private investigator, Stephen Fisher, says that he identified the last known time that Celeste was definitely alive. Let's take a look at that.
The last that I have, and I don't know, what LAPD has, but there was some media left behind at the house, and there's photos from a camera that David was using, and the last photo of Celeste is January 2nd of 2025.
January 2025. Okay. Randy Kessler, I want to tap into your expertise in advising celebrity clients in tough spots. David is in a tough spot right now, acknowledging he's not charged, cloaked in the presumption of innocence, but he's moved out of that home and kind of moved out of the public limelight. What advice would you give him if you were his lawyer, Randy?
Well, he's getting some good advice, and apparently he's consulted with one of the best out there in Hollywood, and he's not talking, right? And people are asking, why isn't he asking more questions? Why isn't he trying to figure out what happened to this person he had a relationship with? No. Don't start the conversation. You might slip up and make a mistake and tell a mistruth about something that's not really relevant, but that leads to you being not credible. And I want to give props to Steve Fisher, right, and the homeowner. When you have resources and you can hire an extra private investigator to help authorities, look at what we're getting. We're getting a gold mine of information, and we usually don't have this. So that may be the key to the whole case.
Great points, Randy. Yes, Steve Fisher, obviously on top of it. And TikTok, we still don't have answers as to how she died. So let's turn to that. So David transferred his Texas home to his mom on September the 23rd. That raised some flags, transferring the property. The LAPD says that the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner has not yet determined the cause or manner of Ms. Rivas Hernandez's death. As such, it remains unclear whether there's any criminal culpability beyond the concealment of her body. So the question now becomes, what's the holdup? What may be taking so long? Why aren't we getting any answers? And will we ever find out what happened to this young lady? So, Dr. Kinsey, I'm coming back to you here now. In terms of the length of time that this autopsy is taking, what do you think could be the holdup, please?
Forensics, Ms. Julie. Evidence processing, toxicology, that kind of thing. Those tests are very, very time-consuming, and the importance here, I can't overstate, the importance of these kind of tests, and they want to get it right. And also, you've probably got a lot of referrals here. Medical professionals, medical examiners, crime scene investigators, and then of course your primary investigators. So, and it may be some information that they know that they haven't put out yet. Both sides sometimes holds their cards a little bit. So we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it sounds like, as Mr. Kessler said, it sounds like they are on the right path, and they have some information that a lot of folks do not have.
Yes, you said toxicology, Dr. Kinsey. That's something I was wondering about, because when the case first broke, and Randy, I want to come to you on this, I kept thinking, could this have been an accidental overdose of this minor child? She was a minor. Could that have occurred, and perhaps did people panic and hide her body, then ultimately dispose of it? Does that change things for singer David if that's the case, Randy?
Maybe. It's a little less intent, right? It's more like felony murder. You'd rather be accused of felony murder then murder one. But it's still a problem. And I think Dr. Kinsey's exactly right. They're holding back something because otherwise Steve Fisher would be saying, here's who I saw, when I saw them drive. He's admitted it's a man driving with the window down, but he won't say who, because they're hoping that they can independently corroborate. There's another witness or somebody comes forward and they say, no, this wasn't a witness who saw on the internet or on court TV, this person was named, and then corroborated it. We came up with this name from this person and from Fisher. So I think they've got more information than we know, and it's going to come out.
Yeah, well said, Randy. Yeah, they're always 3 steps ahead of us, rightfully so. Dr. Kinsey knows all about that. Thank you so much, Dr. Kenny Kinsey. Pleasure having you on the show this Friday. Much love to you and your family. We'll see you soon. Randy Kessler's with us for the hour. So excited to have you with us at home as well. Don't go anywhere. We've got a preview for you of the brand new season of Interview with a Killer. That's next. And the show's host, David Scott, is in the studio here to talk about his first killer interview for season 3. Here's a look at the guy. That's coming up. Plus, will there finally be justice for the murder of this young beauty queen? Police arresting a man, but is there an accomplice still out there? We'll talk about it in the next.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. In our spotlight this morning, the new season of Interview with a Killer, and our special guest host, David Scott, in the studio with us. The season kicking off with Adam Williams, who pleaded guilty to the role in the 2018 murders of James and Michelle Butler, a New Hampshire couple that were killed when they were on a road trip. Let's take a look at a clip from the season opener.
In 2019, Adam Curtis Williams' vicious crimes ignited an international manhunt.
James Butler III and his wife Michelle Butler were found in a shallow grave on Padre Island in Texas.
He terrorized women.
You physically, mentally, emotionally scarred me for life.
Tried to kill cops.
When I open the door to get out, I'm going to shoot this lady in the head.
No doubt about it.
No, this is what was going to happen.
And left an innocent couple dead in his wake.
I'm just thinking, just die already. Would you just die?
Now, for the first time, he's talking about his mayhem.
I've never made a statement at all. I was too sick. I've been consumed by demons most of my life. I let them run my body.
And the tattooed, self-proclaimed monster is claiming redemption.
Finding God and forgiveness and grace was something that I needed. Just like when you do drugs, what do you say? If I passed you the joint and you hit it, hey, do you feel it? You know it's real because you felt it, right? Well, I now know God is real because I feel it. I feel the Holy Spirit.
Or is he just another felon who found Jesus in jail?
You know that falsely claiming faith in Christ is a cardinal sin.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it convenient that you commit despicable acts, get caught, plead guilty, avoid the death penalty, and then claim Jesus to go to heaven?
Wow, what a great looking episode. What great questions. David Scott, I've got to say, I'm honored to sit next to you. You are so good at what you do.
Julie, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, of course. We've been looking forward to season 3 for some time, and this is extra special getting you here to talk about it. So this maniac that you sat down with in this first episode, what was this like? I got chills just watching that.
I have to say, this is probably the most intimidating killer I've faced so far on this series. Adam Williams is a big, powerful man, former Aryan Brotherhood member, former biker gang member, lifelong criminal. I mean, a man who's lost track of the brutal battery he's meted out to people both inside prison and outside prison. And even behind glass, he cuts a very intimidating figure. But he's also a man who's ready to talk, and probably the killer who I felt let me deeper inside his head than any other, and it is a scary place to be.
Oh, without a doubt. I love how you always incorporate victims into every episode. You take into account the perspective of the victims. And we have another clip from the premiere episode where you're talking with the family of the victims. Here we go.
Michelle Butler, a mom, hard worker, told me your epiphany happened when you envisioned them in your cell forgiving you. Were you sober at that point?
Oh, no. I had been awake for 6 days, I think.
Yeah. You're not asking for forgiveness from the Butler family?
I don't deserve their forgiveness. I'm trying, I want to try and give them some sort of closure. I can't ask them for anything. I don't deserve anything. How selfish of that would be of me to ask them for forgiveness. I can't ask them for that. I would like to tell them I'm sorry. That's why I looked over at the camera. I am sincerely sorry that I robbed you of a life with your mom, with your dad. I did that, and I'm so sorry. I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. I apologize for my actions.
I know my mom and Jim wouldn't forgive them. I mean, the type of family I come from, we're very blunt, eye for an eye. I mean, if court and laws weren't a thing, he himself wouldn't be alive. He didn't try hard enough to kill himself, clearly, because he's still alive. I think he's just sorry he got caught, not that he did anything. I mean, he's a career criminal that finally has no chance of getting out of jail, so he's just coming to terms with it. They all find God when they're sitting in a prison cell 20 hours out of a day.
He's not wrong, right there. He's not wrong. We say that all the time. You know that the many cases you've covered, David. I love how in these interviews, and you did hold this guy accountable with the God questions and with every question, you don't give these people a pass. I think that's so unique about this show. He can say he wants to interview with you, but look out. He's got to be ready for what's coming.
Yes, that's right. No, this show, like everything on this network, is ultimately about justice, which is why the victim's perspective, the victim's interest, the victim's proxies are always in our episode in one way or another. And you can see, as to his religious conversion, is it an act of conversion or convenience? And we really hold his feet to the fire about that, and about his lifelong criminal activity. This was a salt of the earth couple who had, were enjoying a well-earned retirement. And he murdered them ultimately out of expediency, just because he needed their stuff. He needed their truck and trailer to make it across the Mexican border as he was fleeing the law from a brutal rape in Utah. And so, yes, we come, we bring the viewer face to face with these perpetrators and try and probe their mindsets and motivations behind the cases, because that's where the answers are. In this case, he never went to trial, and so lots of questions have remained unanswered. Well, we go in there to get the answers.
Oh, that is fantastic. David, I want to ask you about your preparation. How much time goes in to what we see and what we're going to enjoy watching together, the 2-hour premiere Saturday night? How many hours and days and weeks do you prepare?
That's a great question. I mean, we've sort of dialed in our process now, but it takes a long time just to book the interview. You can imagine we run this gauntlet of permissions. The inmate has to agree, the State Department of Corrections has to agree, the facility has to agree. We have to hope that there's no disruption in the facility that day or that week that would, cause them to lock it down, and then, there's no interview. And then, you know, once we get through that, it takes about 100 hours to prepare for one of these interviews. We read every piece of trial transcript, the sentencing hearing transcript. We look at all the visual evidence, listen to all the audio evidence, the victim impact statements. I read every word of those, very important to us. And so by the time we walk in there, you know, I know everything that is knowable.
Yes.
And that is, like, you know, really part of the magic formula, because I can unspin them when they start spinning.
Yes. Well, you and our boss, Ethan Nelson, have really created magic with this show. Masterful job you do with those interviews. And I can't wait to watch Saturday night. David, thank you for the
so
preview this
much.
morning. And friends at home, set your DVR, do it now, set a reminder in your phone. Interview with a Killer Season 3 premieres tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on Court TV. Still to come, an arrest finally made in the murder case of a beautiful young beauty queen. Why, though, did it take so long? We'll discuss next.
This is the Court TV podcast.
It is with profound sadness that we share the tragic passing of our beloved daughter, Kata Scott. We kindly ask for space and privacy at this time as we process the heartbreaking events of the past few weeks. Our hearts are shattered, yet we are deeply grateful for the outpouring of love, support, and prayers from people across the nation and around the world.
This morning, we're giving a voice to victims like Kata Scott from Pennsylvania. Her remains were found at an abandoned Philadelphia school. The 23-year-old beauty queen was last seen on October 4th after leaving her job at an assisted living facility. 21-year-old Keon King is the alleged kidnapper, according to police, transporting her body in a stolen car, then setting it on fire. And now, after days of waiting, King has been charged with Kata's murder. Authorities say this is not his first run-in with the law.
When I picked up this investigation, one of the things that our office also learned was that he did have a previous case. It was a 2025 case for very similar conduct, strangulation and kidnapping. That case had been withdrawn by our office based on the witness failing to appear at court. I pulled that file, and after an extensive review of it, our office made the decision to refile those charges. We believe there is enough to proceed, and we also do believe that this is a pattern for this person.
Oh, so now they're going to proceed on it after someone's dead. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Now, this guy's facing a slew of charges. This is defendant King here. Authorities say they were waiting to officially determine Kata Scott's cause of death, and they say that's why the delay in the filing of the murder charge. Okay, Thursday, the medical examiner revealed that Kata Scott died from a gunshot wound to her head. They're also reportedly looking into if there could be an accomplice here. Let's talk about this case. Someone who knows all about domestic violence, a family law expert, attorney, law professor, Randy Kessler. Randy, I know your heart breaks just hearing this. Tell me your thoughts.
So compared to the last story we covered, this was not a cover-up. I'm glad they waited. A gunshot wound. This is not somebody who died during rough sex or some sort of, outdoor activity. This is somebody who was shot, murdered, killed, and then a cover-up in the fire. So charge is going to stick a little bit better when you have all those ducks in a row. So I see why they waited. Don't like it, but I'm glad they have it now.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the other thing really boiled my blood. So they were talking about this guy's history and how there was a previous case where he was charged with strangulation and kidnapping. And because the victim didn't show up, they dropped it. And that's something, I'm so sensitive about from having been a prosecutor. You have to ask, why isn't the person showing up to court? Oh, I don't know. Maybe they're terrified. Randy, would you speak to that?
Yeah, you can't blame the victim, even for not showing up. If any of us are victims of crimes, do we want to relive that trauma? Do we want to go there? It's probably not going to happen to us again because we're going to be safe and we're not going to be around that person. We're first worried about ourselves. Do you then say, I want to save the world and I want to make sure this person doesn't do it to anybody else? That's noble. It's easy to talk about here. But putting yourself out there again after this kind of trauma, it's hard. God bless the victims that do come forward, and they're helping the world.
They sure are. Boy, I love how you said that, Randy. They sure are. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to go into court. You know what this is like. You teach trial practice. it can be very upsetting, unnerving. It's just an awful experience, even if you've done nothing wrong, right? Even if you're just a witness, it can be a terrifying experience, can't it?
Right. It's not a conversation like we're having. You don't just get to go in and say, let me just tell you what happened. There's going to be an adversarial person cross-examining you that can ask leading questions. Basically, isn't it true you did this? Isn't it true your eyes were closed? You know, who wants to go through that again, especially in a public setting?
Most definitely, Randy. Well said. Let's take a look at some of the key points in this investigation where Kata Scott's body was found. So we have a map here. So she's at work. She works at this assisted living facility. And it's part of her daily routine to go there, right? And Randy, what I keep thinking with especially with October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and you're aware of how everyone in the prevention movement works to educate, something that's so tough is that batterers know the patterns of their intimate partners so well. They may know, you know, what exact time they're going to pull in their parking spot, from what time they can expect them to walk out the door. It creates a huge safety risk if, and I'm sure we'll learn more particulars, but let's say she was distancing herself from him. Maybe she did not want to be in a relationship with him. There potentially can be lethality, can't there be, Randy?
Yes, and not that anyone deserves this, but think about what she was doing for a living, right? Who she's helping. She's helping those that are the most vulnerable, and she becomes the most vulnerable one. And that's also why you may not have as much security there. Who's going to break into and harm people in an assisted living facility? But be aware everywhere you go.
Yeah, you're so right. You can't ever not be vigilant, especially the day and age we're living in. It's so awful. And this precious young girl had her whole life ahead of her. She's gorgeous. She had so much spirit, and to be killed in such a way, it's just beyond heartbreaking. And, you know, and if this guy's first case had been handled properly, Randy, if the prosecutors hadn't withdrawn it, then perhaps she would still be alive today.
That's true. But again, I mean, you were a prosecutor, and I'm sure the prosecutors were frustrated. You can't prove a crime without any witnesses, right? You can't. You got to have the witnesses. And how much pressure do you put on the victims to testify? And there's that back and forth. But maybe the police could have monitored him. Maybe there's some, you know, there's a lot that can be done. We just don't have the funds or the resources. You got to have some evidence. And I'm just sorry for her that the first victim, and maybe the first victim's going to regret it, and they're going to come forward now to make sure he doesn't do it again to somebody else.
Right. Yeah, you're right, because it brings up the question, like you said, how much pressure do you put on a victim? You know, we have the power as prosecutors to get material witness warrants. You know,
Right.
I've had to do that before. It's very unpleasant when you have to do it, but sometimes you have to do it. And if someone is going to come to court, even if you drag them there, but they're not going to say what the truth is, you don't have a case. The case.
Yeah, but you know that.
Yeah.
But the defendant doesn't know that. So they may not know there's not going to be testimony. You may hear from a victim that I'm reluctant, I'm recalcitrant, I don't want to testify. But then you go in with the defendant and say, they may or may not testify. But if you take a deal, you don't have to worry about it. And that's where, at least coming forward, work with the prosecution office. If you're a victim, say to the prosecution, I'd rather not testify, but I'm around. Use me to try to get a plea, get him off the streets.
Exactly.
Work with the prosecution.
Yes, and they have great advocacy groups, as you know, Randy, that they can pair you up with if you're experiencing domestic violence. Randy Kessler, you're the best. Thank you for the great insight and analysis today. And as we go to break, let's remember the victim in this case, beautiful 23-year-old Kata Scott. Her friends and family describe her as full of life. She's gone way too soon. We'll be right back.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.